Baker Show.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 right here on the Kev Baker Show on Truth Frequency Radio, www.tfrlive.com. And don't forget, the Kev Baker Show is sponsored by our good friends over at Get the Tea. So please head on over and check out getthetea.com. So then, we have got a new arrival during the break before we get to our special guest. Johnny Whistles is here for the first time in 2019. Happy New Year to you, Johnny.
Happy New Year, Kev. Yeah, thanks very much. And Happy New Year to Jimmy and to our amazing guest tonight, Kev. Fantastic to have him on because I haven't spoken to him ages. And a Happy New Year to you, big fella, because you are the spiritual warrior that everybody loves to hear.
Absolutely. And talking of the spiritual warrior, for new listeners out there, that means only one thing. That means we're about to be joined by our good friend, Bill Bean. And for anyone who doesn't know, Bill Bean is a world-renowned spiritual warfare and deliverance minister, and some would call him a real-life exorcist. Now, Bill is also featured on a TV show called A Haunting on the TLC network. And he has also been on a show called, or it's a movie called I Was Possessed on the Lifetime Movie Network. Now, Bill comes on the show once a month and he goes over all of his personal encounters with what we call the dark forces, the evil that is invading our reality right now. And on top of all of this, Bill is also an author, a lecturer, and a paranormal, supernatural expert. But not only that, he's not only just a good friend, he literally is a brother and part of the family that I am yet to meet, but I will one day, hopefully, fingers crossed, meet in person. Bill Bean, welcome back, man. First time, 2019.
Thank you so much.
Happy New Year to you, sir.
We're starting the new year off right here, and Happy New Year to you and your family and everybody out there. And it's so great to have Johnny Whistles back. Happy New Year, my brother. I hope you're doing very well. I've been keeping you in prayer. And I certainly pray that 2019 is going to be a great year for all of us. And look, how can I say this? Life is full of challenges, and we all have different things that happen at different times during the course of our life. But that said, it's almost like the dark forces that are on the earth, and they know who they are, and more importantly, God knows who they are. They are turning up the dial, so to speak, in the heat, so to speak. And life is becoming even more challenging for some people, and which is no doubt going to make me even more busy in 2019 because so many people are suffering. But what I could say is that we must keep strong in our faith, keep God first, and God will reward our faith. He'll get us through no matter who tries to do what. We must always stay focused. And the most important thing is to keep God first and to stay in warrior mode, and God will get us through.
And I think this warrior mode is more important than it has ever been, Bill. I truly do. I'm optimistic about 2019, but at the same time, that doesn't blind me to the fact that there's going to be some real bumps in the road ahead. And we've got a couple of stories we've been kind of throwing back and forth to one another since the last time you were on the show. And as I always like to do, I know the holiday period has been upon us, but what have you been getting up to lately yourself, Bill? Have you been having to hit the road to go and see people?
Well, I had, and I'm thankful to God for this. I've had a break for the first time. This was most of the month of December I have been home, and that's the first time in 4 years that I have been home like this. And I think the reason for it, and not that people aren't contacting me for help because they still are, and there's a lot of people still in need, but I've had a family situation as well. My stepson has had some serious health issues going on, and you've seen me post prayers for him on Facebook and other social media, and he's doing better. But I'll tell you, it's been a real struggle, and he has been faced with life-altering things. and he went through a surgery, actually a second surgery, and he had developed infection from that surgery, and still has infection, and still has like drain lines coming out of him, draining out infection. So I do believe that God's healing him, and for whatever reasons, he has had to go through this extremely difficult time. And I really believe that the good that will come out of this is that someday, once he's past all of this, I think, and I've told him this, I think that he's going to end up being a tremendous help to somebody else that is in a similar situation, and he'll be there, and God will have him to be there to be able to help that person through it.
Well, usually we're the one asking you to send out prayers to people, and I know the power of the TFR audience that listen to this show. I've personally been helped by the power of prayer that they've all sent to me in the past, so I ask everyone out there to pray for Bill's stepson, and like Bill says, hopefully we can get him through this with some help from God, obviously. And, it's terrible to hear this, Bill. It really is. On the flip side of that, I'm actually glad to hear you've been able to take some time away from, there's no other way of calling it, battling evil. Because I'd noticed, with things picking up in intensity and frequency, I honestly think it was starting to take its toll on you as well, Bill. And that's inevitable when you're dealing with this on a day-to-day and even hourly basis.
Yeah, people have no idea, Kev, that it's, we all can be this way. We could all get a preconceived notion about something. And, I've had some people say to me, oh, you have such a glamorous life. You travel all the time and you go to all these places. Well, no, it's not a glamorous life. And it is very difficult. It is, people don't realize what you have to go through. All the hoops that you have to jump through when you are flying all over the place. It doesn't end there. I mean, you got to go through the process of going through the airports and through the security and all that, and then you have to, after that, you've got to worry about getting, and sometimes even getting your luggage is a challenge. I've had my luggage recently lost. And then it's rental car, and then it's hotel, and then it's the client, and sometimes I will land at an airport and then have to drive like up to 2 hours, 2.5 hours to get to the client's home. So I would be flying all day and then have to get into a rental car and drive for a couple hours to somebody's house sometimes. That's just the way it is, and it's not a glamorous life. As a matter of fact, it's now, again, I praise God for putting the calling on me, and there's nothing that I'd rather be doing than helping people. But at times, it's almost like I'm on an island, per se, because, my wife doesn't travel with me. I travel alone everywhere. And so the isolation is tough at times, and just the sheer amount of travel. And, from our monthly talks on your show, I'm sure that you could sense, that I was really starting to wear down because of the sheer amount of people and the travel. It was nonstop, and I was just getting to the point where I was getting totally burned out. But I will say, and I praise God for this, that after having this break in December, I really do feel refreshed and ready again. So I praise God for that. So everything is for a reason, Kev, and God certainly knows what's best for us.
I've certainly had to learn that, sometimes the hard way, Bill. You might not see it at the time when you're in the midst of some of these dark situations. However, like you say, everything is happening for a reason. And these times that we're living in, I had on a gentleman last night called Eric Gajewski. He goes by the name of Trad Cat Knight, and we were talking about all of the evil shenanigans that goes on around the Pope, the Vatican, and very much along similar lines that we talk here on our monthly show. And you sent me a story last night, and this comes from the Metro over here in the UK. Now, this was back in March, I believe. However, again, this is very indicative of the times that we're living in right now. And before the break, I was talking about the normalization of using young blood, and they're saying it's a wonder cure for Parkinson's disease. For me personally, this is just more of a normalization of some of the sicker stuff that's going on in the world right now. And this story you sent me, I was shocked. I told my mum about it as well. She was utterly beside herself. She couldn't even believe what I was telling her. But this here, it's a cannibal chef. I know it sounds utterly ridiculous already. However, you've got two individuals, a man and a woman, and they're literally eating each other's body parts. And it's all done in the name of art, Bill.
Yeah, isn't that clever? Isn't that clever to be able to go under the guise of performance art? And this is straight out of the page of Marina Abramovich, which is straight out of the page of Aleister Crowley. That's where this really goes to. All you have to do is connect the dots. And once you connect the dots, it makes perfect sense to you. And this is all part of an agenda and has been part of an agenda for a very long time. And now we're at a point in time in history to where these things are actually unfolding and becoming realities because the people, not all, but some, their minds are conditioned to accept these things as normal.
I mean, sometimes it beggars belief what's going on in the world, but you mentioned Crowley there. And as you know, as the audience know, I certainly paid the price for going to his property here in Scotland. Mm-hmm. And since we last spoke, I have done a little bit more research, and I came across quite a startling fact, and that is the property that I visited, Boleskine House. Not only did Aleister Crowley once live there, Bill, he still resides there because his ashes are actually sprinkled under the property. And this really kind of starts to make sense when we see all of the activity, not just around that house, but in the Great Glen, around Loch Ness, and what happened to me and other people who have visited there as well. And Crowley, he is so many people, especially in the elites in the Hollywood and the music scene, so many people invest so much time into that character, his workings and his magic that's still alive and well today.
Well, I mean, one could start with, and we've talked about this before, and you know, this was really a calculated plan that I feel started to really take shape in the 50s, the late 50s, when rock and roll music started. Look, I'm a guitarist. I used to play in rock bands years ago and all these things. There are certain types of music now, as a man of God, that I wouldn't dare play, and I've gotten on my knees and asked God to forgive me for playing some of that hellish music. And look, the devil is the prince and the power of the air, which means the airwaves. So we have to be very, very cautious and also very, very connected to God. So we have that type of discernment to know what is right, what is not right, what is good, what is not good, and what is pleasing to God and what is not pleasing to God. And so Crowley infiltrated, his teachings certainly infiltrated Hollywood and the entertainment music industry. And one of the greatest promoters for Aleister Crowley and his teachings were the Beatles. And people don't get this. And I get, you know, there's certain people who don't like it when I say these things. But I'm speaking the truth, and this comes from discernment from God, number one, and then endless hours of research into this. So I know what I'm talking about. I know it's true.
No, absolutely. And you just have to look at some of the TV shows, some of the Hollywood movies to see that this is a message that they're absolutely trying to program people with to this day. And it's not going away anywhere soon, Bill. That's the thing. And that's why, you know, we're living in times that are so bizarre, so creepy, so strange as we are right now.
How about this new show that I heard? Now, I don't watch TV. I don't watch regular TV. I haven't watched regular TV in probably 20 years or more. I do watch certain things like on the History Channel or whatever, things like that, but very little TV do I even watch anymore. But there's a thing now that they are promoting, and what's it called? The Masked Singer or something like that. This is the new big show.
I just heard about this today. I just heard about this today. Tell us about this, Bill.
Yeah, now, again, I don't know a whole lot about it other than what I have seen on these commercials, and then I saw a little blurb about this online. And let me tell you something. In my opinion, this is evil to the core because these I don't even know what the premise of the show is. I guess that it's some type of, either singer, athlete, or entertainer or something that's behind a mask, and they're singing a song, and these judges got to guess who they are or whatever. I guess that's what the premise is. But anyway, these people are coming out from the little clip that I saw. They're coming out in these Illuminati type of masks. It looks like a scene from Eyes Wide Shut. And this is the great hot news show on Fox Network, this masked singer.
Yep, I'm just looking
right
at
in your face.
I'm just looking at this right now, and one of the singers comes out with what looks like a World War I kind of gas mask on, and that isn't bad enough. It's got antlers on it. There's another one that comes out dressed as a big fluffy animal with, surprise, surprise, one eye. There's also somebody dressed here that looks like a half man, half lion. This is, I mean, I had seen the name of the show. I didn't know much about it. There's somebody here dressed as like a creepy rabbit. And you're right. Yeah. It's the kind of thing that we see either on Eyes Wide Shut. There's also some famous photographs of a Rothschild party from a few years ago. And it's absolutely straight out of that. This
absolutely, Kev.
Yeah, there's not, and of course, in this day of globalization, Bill, you know, you've got the US version, and we've got the UK version coming as well. So this is going on both sides of the pond. This is bizarre. We've got another one here with like a kind of dolls or an anime face, and they've got horns and a unicorn. What on earth's name is this all about?
This is straight out of hell is what it is, and this is another Illuminati satanic mind control type of format to, again, further program the masses into accepting these hellish things as normal, cool, trendy, edgy, progressive, whatever words you want to add in with that to, you know, enhance this hellish thing, and that's what they do. You could call it whatever you want it, but the truth of the matter is, this is, in my opinion, is satanic to the core, and people really need to refrain from watching this type of garbage and taking it in.
And anyone listening right now, just Google this. I mean, the masked singer. Go to the images. You'll see some of the kind of stuff we're on about. And the actual logo for the show is like one of the masks, one of the kind of things that you would see straight out of Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut. Absolutely, in your face. And again, this somewhat ties into the almost transhumanist agenda as well, Bill, because no longer is it kind of enough just to be human, right? You have to be that something extra now.
This is disturbing, to say the very least, that you have these people, and you sent me a story a little while ago about New York City beginning, offering non-binary gender option on birth certificates, and this is going to be a trend that's going to spread everywhere. This is yet another abomination before God. God made man, and then he made a female to be the helpmeet for the man. That would be his wife and his companion and his partner. And now we see this all twisted around, and men like me who speak this way, who speak truth, are vilified and closed-minded and haters and all these types of things. Meanwhile, the agenda continues to be pushed forward that anything goes. And where does that come from? Good old Aleister Crowley again. Do what thou wills, the whole of the law. And that's exactly what this is, and they are pushing it to the max.
Well, let me just bring Johnny Whistles in here. I'm showing you some of the images here, John. And you know me, Whistles. It's not very often I'm shocked or lost for words, but I can't wrap my head around this one, dude. This is kind of, I mean, adults are going to be into this. I can't even see kids being into this, dude. So you've got to wonder, what's the reasoning behind it? And Bill's nailing it, in my opinion, Johnny.
Yeah, it's, Kev, the thing about it, it's been going on for so long, this satanic kind of a ritual stuff that they put in dances and the Super Bowl and things. But this here, this is another level altogether, Kev, because
this is dark, John, isn't it?
This is very dark, Kev. And I don't know. It just baffles me really what they're actually trying to achieve. Some of these things, you know what I mean, you get goat's head, you get Baphomet, and this one here, this white one with it's like a unicorn, do you know what I mean? But it looks absolutely evil. It really does. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's peacocks. I'm going to send another one here. This looks like some kind of reptilian. And again, folks, just Google this. Go to the images, whatever search engine you use, look at the images for this. And there's something far wrong with this. There's something really, really dark about this, Bill. I'm glad you've brought this up because I had just seen the name of the show. I had not even began to appreciate what this was all about.
Yeah, I mean, this is part of their progressive movement. They continue to use these types of words as progressive and edgy, you know, and these types of these phrases and words for these types of actions that make it seem like it's so cool, you know, and this is the way it's supposed to be in the world, and it's absolutely filth, it's garbage, it's disgusting, and it is satanic. And I will never, ever conform to the ways of this world the way it's going now. So I will always be seen, I guess, as an outcast or a hater or whatever they want to say. That's fine. I love everybody, and I've certainly done everything that I could possibly do and then some, and will continue to do so, to help people from all walks of life. And I praise God for putting that on me. That doesn't mean that I have to go along with what these agendas are and with what some of these people are promoting and what they're doing. Absolutely not. And I'm not out to offend anybody, but, you know, if they get offended, I'm sorry for that. But I am absolutely not going to go along with things that I know are not right and certainly not right by God.
You know, Bill, it's hard to say anything nowadays, even the most unpolitical, unoffensive thing in the world. Somebody somewhere is going to get offended, right? Because this is just it's like a new religion. I'm offended. Everything offends some people. People are so mind controlled, Bill, as well as everything else going on.
I want you to think about this for a second. I want John and you to take a second, and the listeners out there, take a second and really think about this and step outside of this situation and say, okay, now I write about this in my new book, Stranger Than Fiction, which you are a big part of that book. And I thank you for being a part of that book. And we're getting rave reviews on it, and praise God for it. But anyway, I state something in the book about if an outside force were going to take over, how would they go about it, things of that nature. And I truly believe that's what's happening here. I think that this attack has certainly been a well-calculated plan for many years, and it is coming from within. And some of these people are taken over. It's a form of demonic possession combined with a total, just a total brain wipe, in the sense that this is part of the great deception, no doubt about that. And there's almost an illusion through this type of mind control and demonic possession. This, make no mistake, this isn't the type of possession where people, well, some show the signs of what a usual possession would look like, but others, this is a more stealthy type of thing where their minds are just totally captured, and they, no matter what you say to them, they cannot see it, they don't want to see it, and they are just fully immersed and entrenched in these wicked ideals now about how life should be and the world should be.
Well, Bill, this show, even these suits that they're wearing, I mean, anybody complains about what they look like, it's going to go down to its art.
Yes, you're not diverse enough, John.
Yeah, it's the person who is designing it is expressing himself. But
that's exactly what they're going to say. We're the ones in the wrong for questioning this. And, you know, Bill, this ties in brilliantly with the chapter that I included in your book all about CERN. And, you know, in the corridors of science, they're very open about the fact that machines like CERN are opening doorways, portals to other dimensions. And you really have to be careful about what doorways you're opening, because what lies behind one door or another, who only knows? But you're right. You're absolutely right. And if you were going to invade somewhere and it was going on, then I think we're actually watching it unfolding in real time. Last night, Eric was talking about the ascended masters, the fallen angels coming back into our reality. And that's literally the doors that they're opening with machines like CERN.
No question about it. And this is how you have these types of things with the Mandela effect and the scriptures being altered and other things being altered as well. This is why it's happening. This is how it's able to happen.
And we'll come back on the other side. Bill Beaton, ladies and gentlemen, check him out, billbeaton.net, billjbean.com. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Kev Baker Show.
Bill Bean, the spiritual warrior, is our very special guest tonight. And of course, his latest work is out there for all of you to get your hands on. It's called Stranger Than Fiction, True Supernatural Encounters of a Spiritual Warrior. This covers all of the topics that we like to cover here on the show with Bill and with so many other of the guests as well. It reads like a kind of script. When you look at the topics, it's like the kind of thing we would work off for a Freaky Friday. UFOs, exorcisms, CERN, all of the stuff we talk about on here. You can get a hold of that from Bill's website over on Amazon. And before we launch back into this, Bill, I know you want to give a special shout out to a couple down in Florida, right?
Yeah, I want to wish Valentina and Matt, they're getting married tomorrow, or actually on Saturday, I'm sorry. And I just want to wish them the very best. May God bless and flourish their holy union together. And I feel bad, Kev. I was supposed to officiate that wedding, but due to the circumstances, what I mentioned, with my stepson, and I just need to be home here with my wife right now. And I'm sorry that I couldn't go. And I'm sorry that I couldn't be a part of it to officiate it, but I wish them all the best, and may God just bless them in every aspect of their lives and their marriage as well. So that goes out to Valentina and Matt.
Absolutely. Now then, where do we go from here? Because there's so much we could get into, but something you've had to tackle just recently, and myself also. We talk about the censorship that's going on right now. And you yourself, you've had a number of websites, Bill. You've got billjbean.com, the one I always direct people to. But you've got another website as well that you've been telling us about during the break. I'd love for you to let the audience know what's been going on with that.
Yeah, and look, these things have happened to me a number of times over the years. And this is what happens when we try to speak truth and we speak truth to the masses. Those in the shadows, they don't like that. And so there are attempts at retaliation. Now, I'm very thankful to God for keeping me in his hedge of protection. And I pray that he will continue to do so, and I certainly believe that he will continue to do so. So my motto is always, if God's with us and for us, then nothing or no one can stand against us. And I live by that, and I'll continue to live by that. That said, two incidents that really stand out to me that have recently taken place. The first, and we talked about this before, the copter that was hovering over where I live at on December 4th, that circled over for 30 minutes straight. And I, captured it on video and took some photographs of it as well. And then recently, over the last week and a half, I suppose, this, I tried to go onto my website, which is another site that I have, which is billbeanministries.com. And I go on that, and all of a sudden, there's a message on there saying that the site is no longer active, that I'm going to punch it up right now and tell you exactly what it says.
Well, you punch that up, Funny.
It says you have reached a domain that was pending verification per ICANN rules, but has since been verified. It may take 24 to 48 hours for the website. So, in other words, whomever this company ICANN is, they have seized my domain. And if you punch up BillBMinistries.com, you no longer get BillBMinistries.com. It's this message. And I've contacted these people, and I sent you a message during the break, and it's just bizarre. I mean, it is. And then you told me about what's been done to you with your site and content being hijacked and taken over. So it makes perfect sense to me as to why these things are happening.
Yeah, I mean, it was Nancy. Nancy's in the chat room. She really alerted me to the fact there was a problem on my website, and I got into it with GoDaddy. And basically, like you're saying, yeah, they said there had been a problem with my hosting, something that, when I look at the records, I'm not too sure if there was. But let's just say there was anyway, right? We'll err on the side of giving them their due. But what they were saying to me was, it's okay, Kev. If you want to get all that content back that you've done over the years, all you have to do is pay us a cheeky little fee of, I believe it was towards the region of $250. Well, funnily enough, I don't really have all that much money kicking about. Nobody does these days, Bill. And that's not me playing pauper or anything like that. But I find it quite synchronistic that the two of us, with the work we do, both find ourselves on the wrong end of something like that at the same time.
Interesting, isn't it? I mean, this is just part of, I guess it goes with the territory, so to speak. And so when you are really immersed in things and out there on the front lines, you're going to have a response. And so again, I fear not. I will stay in warrior mode, which is faith, strength, and courage 24/7, and I praise God for that. I also praise God for turning back, these forces that try to come and create problems. We have to just continue to move forward. So we can't allow these types of things to create fear or intimidation type of tactics, because we have a job to do. And so God has called me to do a specific thing in performing exorcisms and deliverances for people. And God has called you to do a specific thing, which is to be a messenger and to always be able to get the truth out to the masses.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Now, something else I want to bring up with you tonight, Bill. We've had very good conversations in the past about aliens, UFOs, stuff like this. And you sent me a very interesting video to do with just that topic the other day as well. So what's your thoughts on some upcoming fake or real alien invasion, Bill?
Yeah, and I think that theme is being pushed big time now. I think that, again, perhaps this would be a way. Now, I don't have all the answers on this. I'm not privy to that type of information, so I go by
Bill, if you
what I feel.
If you were to tell me you had all the answers, I would have to ban you from the show immediately. No man has all the answers, yes.
I never claim to know all the things, but I'll tell you, I go by two things. One is holy discernment, and two, I try to research as much as I can, and then it requires discernment to know what may be true and what might not be true. But we've had these recent things in New York on December 27th with the skyline lighting up blue. Now, an interesting thing. Now, I'm not sure if this is true or not. I'm going to do some research into this. I just read this last night. That I read that when transformers blow, they would light the sky up white. It would be a brilliant white flash. Now, I'm going to do some concrete research into this to be sure of what I'm saying here.
Let me add to this, okay? Because I was speaking to somebody who her husband or her ex-partner, and she'll probably be listening to the show right now. Big shout out to Kristen. He actually works in this kind of industry. And along with what he was saying, and one of the videos that I was sent today by a listener who had gone digging, you're right. Typically, they can be quite bright white light. However, blue is notable as well. And when I looked at them, and again, I don't say I have all the answers. And here's my take on what we've seen with New York. I could be absolutely wrong. However, I think what we've seen was what we were told we've seen. But I find it very interesting that the mainstream media, the NYPD, and the fire department all took this as an opportunity to not to just tell people to calm down, everything's okay, but they were posting emojis of aliens and talking about aliens arriving and adding this alien angle to it. So
Exactly right.
So whether it was a genuine event like I suspect it may have been, and I don't say it definitely was, I think it was, but it was certainly something that even if it wasn't the full alien stuff that you might be thinking it was, or others think it was definitely used to program people, to get people ready with this language, alien invasions, when you see things like this in the sky. But your take on this as
because
well.
they made a posting, Kev, saying this is not, how did they say it? This is not an alien type of event or something like that. They made a reference to it.
They had the alien emojis actually in their tweet, like something you would see, not the typical tweet you would see from a police department, for goodness sake, you know?
And then there was a posting from, I don't know if it was the electrical department or whomever it was, some official agency in New York, and they made a statement in that saying that this is not an alien type of event. I mean, they literally said that in the statement. And I thought, why would they, this is an official statement. Why would they even mention anything like that in the statement? That, to me, made no sense whatsoever. And then here's another thing that doesn't make any sense. At the same time, another event was taking place in Louisiana with a so-called transformer that had blown there and a similar type of event. Now, I saw video on that, and it looked pretty much like the same thing that was taking place there in New York, and then there was another story about it happening in Ohio as well.
Let's Johnny Whistles. I know you don't keep so well these days, Johnny. I know you don't spend that much time on the PC, which I'm glad to hear, John. But if you've seen any of these videos, John, what's your take on this?
When I seen him at first, the first thing I thought it was Transformer blowing up. But as you say, Kev, there's a lot of blue in there, and it seems to last a bit longer than what I would say a normal blast from a transformer would be.
See, there we go. And I mean, we can sit and we can debate whether it was real, like we're being told, the transformer, or whether it was something otherworldly. But certainly, since the events happened, whatever the events have been, Bill, it's not just been the corners of the conspirasphere that have been saying aliens, like we've just said there. The authorities are talking aliens as well. And when you see the authorities and the mainstream media throwing the aliens in there, you know that whatever's happened, that they're using it to program us for a reason. So I'm absolutely, what comes in the weeks and months ahead, who only knows, man.
Now, here's an interesting thing. As you're saying this, Kev, I'm watching a video. This video was posted by a guy named Nick Ricardo. And his video, it says, the transformer explosion in Astoria, Queens, New York, was right outside of my window. So bright I couldn't look directly at it. So then you click on the video. I'm going to send this to you. You click on the video, and it's brilliant. It's like a brilliant white flash, and you see like the fire. You could see like fire coming from this brilliant white flash. So if this individual who videoed this and was that close to it, and that's showing white, how does that show up vivid blue in the sky like that? And furthermore, another video I watched as you were talking was from a guy named Jake Hanrahan, and transformer explosion, a.k.a. aliens are landing in New York. And now an interesting thing about this is he was quite a distance away from this, yet the skyline seemed everywhere. The sky seemed to be blue, and way above this, so you could see the brilliant flash that would something you'd expect to see at that level in the sky from an explosion. But then way above is this gigantic circular flash of this type of vivid blue that is very interesting, to say the least. So I'm going to send this to you, and you take a look at it for yourself. Again, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know exactly what took place, but it is very, very suspect. I'll say it like that. Did the event happen the way it did? Were there transformers involved? Yeah, I don't doubt that for a second. But I think something else was going on in conjunction with this, because it just doesn't look or feel right to me.
Well,
sorry, Kev, I was just going to say, maybe it's actually the first time that we're seeing the nanoparticles that's being sprayed. Do you know what I mean? Something that bright and maybe doing something to them that actually shows you them in the air.
Yeah, who knows what's in the
That's a
sky?
good point, John.
Yeah, and let's bring tinfoil Jim into the equation. Jimmy Jeans, what's your take on this? You're loving this, dude, because this what Bill and Johnny are saying is more on page with what you're thinking as well, right?
Yeah, only because once before here in California, when there's earthquakes, sometimes transformers blow. And only because I happened to see a transformer blow once, and it was white. But I like Johnny's take because, maybe the electrification of these particles could have happened somehow from the explosion of this transformer, that somehow it did ignite these particles that they utilize in this spraying. So maybe that's what it was. I don't know, but I'll tell you what, that was one blue light. That definitely wasn't white.
And did you notice, and this was the first, this video that I just watched was the first one that I took real notice of the brilliant circular blue above, way above, in the sky. Yeah. And again, I don't know, but just somebody that's from the outside, just casually looking at it, it looked like a giant circular type of craft that was a disc type of craft that was emanating this gigantic blue.
It almost seemed like, Kev, to me, that it had the same characteristics of that spiral that we saw when Obama got the Nobel Prize. There was that weird blue light. It seems like the same thing to me. Maybe it was a portal opening up. I don't know, but it sure
very
is.
Well, could be.
Very strange. Very strange.
Now, it makes one wonder, because I've heard rumors about there being a CERN device in Chicago. I wonder
there's actually one
if there's such a device in New York, because there's a HARP installation in Long Island.
Well, Brookhaven Laboratories, I think that's near New York. That has got one of the bigger particle colliders in the world, Bill. Absolutely.
So I wonder if it had something to do with that, and perhaps, again, it's all speculation because we truly don't know the answers here, but I wonder if a portal was open there, and that's what the big round thing is above everything in the sky.
Well, see, this is the thing. We talk about CERN so much, and it's a bit like HARP. We kind of take our eye off the fact that these are just one of many installations. And when it comes to the RIC, the Relative Heavy Ion Collider in Brookhaven, little known fact is that these things that myself and Anthony Patch often talk about, the strangelets, that certainly do have the potential to be highly destructive, open portals, you name it, they do it. They were first produced at Brookhaven Laboratory before CERN ever reached that power level, Bill. They were the first ones to really achieve the strangelets.
I believe it. I absolutely believe it. I mean, you have things there that there are some things I left out of the Stranger Than Fiction book that, perhaps I'll add in the volume 2. But, things like Montauk and the things that the secret projects that took place there with allegedly people being taken off the streets and subjected to these horrible things that took place where it was mind control type of experiments, and even worse, to get secretions of adrenochrome and things of that nature. I mean, there are, if you dig deep enough down the rabbit hole, and I don't suggest that because it can be very, very disturbing, very troubling, but I have dug into those deep and dark places, and let me tell you, there's a whole other underworld that is taking place that probably 99% of the people, of the populace, don't even realize, and they wouldn't even want to go there in knowing some of this information.
You are bringing up something there, Montauk, that myself and Jimmy recently, and Johnny as well, I believe Johnny was on the second hour of the show, with a lovely lady called Jojo Seabacker. Now, Jojo has had a very interesting kind of life story. And the subject of Montauk came up, Bill. And unfortunately, Jojo was first-hand experiencer of some of the things that went on there. And from time to time, we talk about the TV show called Stranger Things. Massive TV show on Netflix. One of the biggest shows in years. And Jojo was telling us that, for her, she can't watch that show because that's like watching her life story. And people really need to realize that sometimes, when we're watching these things that are very entertaining and we think are highly fictional, they are very much based on factual events. And the brothers who wrote Stranger Things, it was originally a show about that very facility at Montauk. And if these are the things that were going on back in the day, Bill, it's horrible to really think about this, but it's real. And we have to be realistic. There's programs that we haven't learned about yet. And there are individuals right now who are suffering as victims in these programs that maybe 50 years from now, people might be lucky enough to hear about. So these things are not a thing of the past, is what I'm getting at. They're still going on today.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, there are certain things that if I mention on the air now in certain places, if I did that, I would probably get a response of a pretty strong threat. So, again, I try to balance things. I don't care about myself so much, and I do know that God keeps me and my family in his hedge of protection. I thank you for that. But you have to be wise about some things and not push it too far. But there are places, like you said, installations out there, underground facilities in many different places that are doing this maniacal, demonic, beyond imagination type of things to people. And I think some of these, in places like that, some of these walking demons are not entirely human as well.
Let me ask you, Bill, because we were talking about this with Eric last night, and he is of the belief, again, none of us can say this definitively one way or another, but would you say right now that, call them ascended masters, call them fallen angels, demons, whatever title we put on it, do you think they are here amongst us now?
There's no question about it, Kev, because, in my work as a deliverance minister / exorcist, I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyes, and I've seen them with my own eyes, and this has taken place in my life since childhood, enduring the things that I've endured and seeing the things that I've seen. I have come up close and personal with these some of these demonic entities, and so I know they're real. There's no question about it. And I also know that the power of God is very real. And I know that the greatest weapon that mankind can have and possess against these demonic forces is the power of God. And the way that we can keep our foot on the enemy and literally kick him in the teeth out of our lives is by the power of God. Because when we have that level of faith, strength, and courage, again, which is warrior mode, and when we're in that type of warrior mode for real, then God has that type of favor on us, and we can venture into places that would be in the worst nightmares of some people. I mean, last time I was on, we talked about me going through that home in Bel Air, Maryland, in the total pitch dark, and this was a demon-filled place. How could I do that? I can do that by the power of God, because I have no fear, because I know that God's with me and for me. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is I'm urging people now in this new year of 2019 to get even closer to God, be real in your relationship with God. And it's a very personal relationship, by the way.
Absolutely.
And so please, I urge you to begin a relationship and a dialogue with God and stay close to him, and he will stay close to you. And we will get through these things that are here and the things that are coming by the power of God and the favor of God and the protection from God.
Well, Bill, before I let you say a few words to ourselves here and the wider audience, this is without us hooking up together beforehand. I was telling people in 2019, I would love to tell everyone that I could do one show, 2-hour session of radio, and everything will be better by the end of it. But we can't. And there's none of us can change the world with the kind of wave of a hand. And in 2019, as I say, I'm optimistic, but things are going to get harder. And I encourage people to look inwardly and to do the inner work. And I think that's exactly what Bill's talking about here as well. So, Bill, I'm going to hand it over to you. We've probably got about 3 minutes just now, but I would love for you just to say a blessing, a quick prayer for everyone listening tonight, because by golly, do we need it.
And I thank you again, brother. I can't believe how fast the time always goes. And, it's always that way when we're together. And I thank you so much for always having me to be a part of your show. And I look forward to the next time. And God bless you and your family. And hi to your mom, Pearl, and your wife and your brother and everybody out there. Thank you all for listening in. And I do pray that you're all blessed and that God will have great favor and protection on you and over you and your families in 2019. And Father, I thank you and praise you for this blessed and appointed time. And I ask that you bless everyone out there, Kevin, his family, and everybody that's a part of this and listening in with an abundance of love, peace, joy, good health, and prosperity. And please keep them in your hedge of protection 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for life. Bless their coming in and bless their going out, and make their enemies to flee from them in 7 different directions. Father, we give you the praise and the thanks and the glory forevermore in Jesus' name. And Kev, I've said it before, though I'm busy, I'm never too busy to help someone. So if there's somebody out there that's in need of deliverance and you're having a rough time, just visit billbean.net or billjbean.com, and you can email me directly from the site, and I will help you. And also a quick shout-out to your friend, Jordana. I'm very, very happy for her. I recently heard from her. She's doing very well. I'm absolutely overjoyed. God worked through me to perform a deliverance over her. She's doing very well, and I'm very, very thankful for that. And I'm also quick mention about an upcoming event on the 18th of January.